Man, how many close calls do the Mets need with deGrom before they realize this isn't working? This isn't working. We're waiting on another MRI, and honestly, if it comes back clean, that doesn't mean he's completely in the clear. Moose, every MRI has come back clean for deGrom this year, but does anyone feel good about where the situation is? Absolutely not. I mean, this plan of deGrom feels something, yet he makes his next start and has to be pulled early from that start. That is not a plan. So I asked the New York Mets, what else you got? Because here's my fear. My fear is this, that the Mets don't actually have a clue about what to do with deGrom, and I'm talking about two different issues. Obviously, the increase in velocity. How is this impacting deGrom, and cumulatively, how is it going to keep impacting him? Because, sure, it looks effortless when he's throwing, but are we really going to believe that there may be no connection whatsoever between this crazy uptick and now the elbow and shoulder discomfort? And I got to give a tip of the cap to Dave Lennon of Newsday. You guys know I love him, read him all the time, but he had this nugget, which has to be just underlined. deGrom's thrown 138 pitches at 100 or more miles per hour this season. No other starting pitcher has as many as 20 pitches over 100. He's blowing them away. Is that contributing to these issues? And then here's the other one where I worry about the Mets don't have a plan here. Moose, deGrom's on a historic run this season, and you can just see it, like he can taste it. He is going for the MVP. He is going for the third Cy Young. He already said this season he wants to be an inner circle Hall of Famer. Like, he's going for it. And I know the team isn't going to want to get in the way of that. But what will cause the bigger problem with their ace? Is it going to be resting him periodically when he needs it and dealing with that, or something bigger comes along and he's done with the season? Like, I love him as a competitor. I love it. But what I love more is watching him pitch and feeling that he's healthy. And the Mets need a better plan here for how they're going to manage Jacob deGrom and his velocity and his health, and how they're going to manage his temperament, because we got a long way to go, and this, whatever this is, isn't working.
Yeah, but so then what do you suggest? There have been three separate issues. deGrom was asked about it last night. Doesn't feel like any of the issues are connected. One has nothing to do with the other. You mentioned the uptick in velocity. He talks about the fact of how easy he's throwing. It's not Steven Strasburg max effort every time that he's throwing 100 miles an hour. He talks about the refinement in his delivery. We know how athletic. Ron Darling's talked about it on SNY. He's the best athlete on the team. So, all of these things, something's amiss. Because you've had some. Put the lat issue aside. When you have the elbow issue in his previous start on Friday night, and then you have the shoulder issue last night, where he struck out 7 straight guys, 8 in the first nine batters that he faced, or 8 in the first 3 innings. You say, okay, well, something's got to give here for Jacob deGrom. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. If they did some cursory kind of medical exam after he left the game last night. He doesn't feel it's serious. Rojas doesn't feel it's serious. He'll get checked out by the medical doctors today. So, in essence, is it a case of, well, I want to protect him from himself? And listen, I think Jacob deGrom is going to win a World Series. I think by his dominance, he wants to compete. He wants to be out there. Yeah, you heard it during his presser last night after the game. That is why you love Jacob deGrom. Yes, he wants to, be considered that inner circle, all that other conversation that you have, and he's been the best player in the National League, so therefore he is right now, in that conversation to be the MVP of the National League, along with the Cy Young Award winner. And through 3 starts, through 11 starts, he's got the lowest ERA in the history of Major League Baseball. It's at, 0.52. He's been utterly ridiculous this season. So all of that. But if it comes back clean, what exactly do you do? I don't know if I necessarily believe that all of a sudden, because he's throwing harder, because of that refinement in the delivery, that has led to what you've seen here. They're not significant. If the shoulder injury is not significant, it was shoulder soreness. He had the tendonitis in the flexor tendon in the elbow There's nothing of significance when you look at the injury. And deGrom himself last night, and he knows his body better than anybody else. So you want to say, well, you got to protect the pitcher from himself. You want to shut him down, even though the doctors are telling you that nothing is wrong with Jacob deGrom. Do you want him to dial it back? Do you want to say, Jake, listen, I know it's coming out free and easy and you're throwing the ball 100 miles an hour, but, maybe dial it back and start to throw 96, 97. Is that all of a sudden going to lead to him, being healthier? I have no idea. I couldn't tell you if that one has anything to do with the other. And I think the Mets and deGrom clearly are frustrated and are searching for answers here. You hope that the shoulder injury is nothing of significance. The Mets don't believe that it is, or the shoulder issue that he had last night after, we'll see when he meets with the doctors. The MRI on the elbow came back clean. There was no structural damage whatsoever. He's dealing with tendonitis. So what exactly you do here? You want to shut him down, even though physically there's nothing wrong with him, but I'm going to shut Jacob deGrom down and tell him what?
Well, physically
Come
there
back
is
and
something
start to
wrong
throw.
because he had to leave the 2 starts in a row.
But
so you can say structurally nothing's wrong,
there's
Moose,
structurally nothing wrong. He was uncomfortable last night.
And we know how baseball injuries go, where it's like nothing wrong, and then all of a sudden it leads to something. Like to think that, okay, the lat issue, but the lat turned into a back issue. So you did have a correlation there, even though it was from swinging the bat. To think that somehow elbow and shoulder, might not be connected, or try to foreshadow where this could be going and not be super cautious and be super proactive about it. I mean, that's really what I'd be asking. Listen, unfortunately, the gap between what a guy says and what is actually, where this could be going might be pretty big, especially with somebody like deGrom. And he said it last night, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I'm sick of this. I'm sick and having to deal with all this stuff. Well, it's going to be really up to the Mets here, deGrom himself, to try to see if they can get to the bottom of it. Telling a guy to dial it back, I don't know if that works. Building in extra rest for him, though, and if he does feel any kind of discomfort, to skip his time through the rotation. Listen, I don't love it. It's coming at a time in the season where I've had to be talked off the cliff several times. I've said I'm uneasy about how comfortable this is for the Mets. They keep winning, even though their schedule is an absolute bear, and you have, you're going to ask a lot from your pitchers here over the next, 13 days or so. It's just protecting Jacob deGrom has got to be paramount to all of that. You've built a little bit of a lead here with the NL East, and I don't want to say you want to just spit it all away. But if it comes at the, at the risk of, or comes to help Jacob deGrom and be proactive about resting him, and maybe rest is the only answer. I don't know, and I'm not privy to any of their medicals or anything like that, but maybe some extra rest is just what he needs to get through this season if he's going to be pitching the way he's going to be pitching, which could be some kind of uncharted territory here with a starter like him, and how he is living above 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I would think if you're going to continue, so you're going to build it into where he's pitching every 6th day, not every 5th day. So
when he feels tightness, when he feels something,
but
yes.
Last night he came out. Last night he could have continued to pitch. He felt like it just wasn't worth it, right? He was feeling soreness in his shoulder. He was uncomfortable. It was nothing that he could not pitch through. He was feeling it through the 3 innings, and he was dominant through those 3 innings. So it was nothing where he was all of a sudden physically limited. He just said, well, it was just not be the smart decision to continue to pitch through this, right? So
but that's coming off a start where he had to leave because of an elbow.
The lat in the back was off swinging a bat. You look at the tendonitis in the elbow, and then the shoulder soreness, if there's nothing wrong. So, it's either A, dial it back, or B, is you give them extra rest during the season. But
what do you want to do? Put your head in the sand and be like, all's well here, and just throw him out there again? That's not a solution either.
But there's no major injury to Jacob deGrom.
Yet.
But how do you know there will be?
Look at where it's trending, though. I don't
know if it's trending toward a major injury. I have no idea.
You got an elbow and a shoulder. What's next? Do you want to find out?
Hold on a second. Shoulder soreness and tendonitis in the elbow. That's what it is.
That's not a precursor to anything.
I have no idea. And nobody could call this station this morning and tell me and make the declaration that it's leading to a significant injury. So you want to say that? Okay, so let's have Jacob deGrom dial it back. So you want to do that, and you want to go, okay, Jake, listen, we know that you've refined your delivery. You're throwing the ball 100 miles an hour. The stat that Lennon threw out there, 138 pitches this year of 100 miles an hour more. Let's dial it back. You don't need to, even though he's telling you that he's not giving you max effort on those throws. So it's not like he is a guy, and we've all seen max effort. I brought in Steven Strasburg. Everyone talked about the fact that he was an arm injury waiting to happen because the amount of max effort throws that he has start in and start out. deGrom's telling you it's coming out free and easy, and the velocity is just there because, as he said, because I worked on my delivery, and my delivery is really, really clean right now. So you want to go back to the old way of Jacob deGrom or the new way, the refinement in the delivery, and he's found out the velocity. So you could tell him, A, dial it back. You could shut him down. And hopefully the doctors find nothing today. So you shut him down, and then you say, we'll see you in 10 days. We'll put you on the IL. We'll shut you down miss a couple starts, and we'll see if you're A-OK after that. I mean, or you could build in the natural rest during the course of the season for a starting rotation that isn't all that deep and say, well, we're going to protect the asset, which I would get, and we're going to add an extra day, and we're going to have you pitch every 6th day instead of every 5th day.
He's
I guess
already
you
asked
could go
for
that
extra
route.
days. He's asked for extra days so far this season. He asked for an extra day before their series in Colorado, so he's not afraid to ask for that. I would shut him down. That would be the easy thing right now. Not easy because of their schedule, but that's to me the no-brainer thing. Because first of all, you want to, even if the MRI comes back clean, again, every MRI he's had has come back clean. It doesn't mean he's not dealing with these issues just because there's not something structural. That's the worst case scenario. That means like you're toast, you're cooked. And with all the things going on in baseball right now, there could be so much contributing in minor ways, major ways to what we're seeing. I don't know if deGrom needed a little something to get a grip on the ball, which everyone totally says is fine. Tyler Glass now is blaming that on his injury. Garrett Cole last night saying that he's worried about more injuries to starting pitchers because they're making this change in the middle of the season. Add on top of it the velocity. Add on top of it elbow and shoulder. I just don't want them, they can't be naive about this either. Like, again, baseball injuries are weird like that. It's nothing until it's something big. And I remember this even too, like it's different, but even with Syndergaard, they used to be like, no, it's easy, it's free and easy. Well, it's free and easy until you need Tommy John. Like, that's the thing. I can't tell Jacob deGrom to dial it back, Moose. I don't know if that's possible. You said he refined his delivery. He's just pitching in a different stratosphere. And honestly, we're flying blind because he's pitching in a different stratosphere, and we don't know what that impact could be having on his arm and where we're all going here, and it's only June.
No, I get it. I mean, you brought up Syndergaard. See, a scout told me when they watched Syndergaard, he's an arm injury waiting to happen. Before he suffered the Tommy
the Mets
John
didn't
surgery.
do anything helping him out there.
But it was just the way he pitched. I mean, it was the
but remember,
velocity
it was
in which he threw. It was the fact that it really wasn't when you watch him.
He
said
it.
I get it. He's different. Noah Syndergaard is not in the same breath as Jacob deGrom. And you look at it.
This is my point.
I'm getting your point. I've never had a scout tell me at all about Jacob deGrom that he is an arm injury waiting to happen. I heard it about Strasburg. I heard it about Syndergaard. I've heard it about others. I heard it about the pitcher Mark Pryor with the Chicago Cubs years gone by, that he was an arm injury waiting to happen. So I've heard it about guys. I've never heard a scout tell me that Jacob deGrom, because of his delivery and how he throws, is an arm injury waiting to happen. Now, this is obviously not good. I'm not telling you that it is. I hope it's nothing significant. And if you want to say you should be extra cautious with Jacob deGrom, I'd agree with you. You want to shut him down and put him on the IL? That's fine. You want to give him extra rest? That is fine. I'd be a little leery, though, of him now having to adjust and trying to dial it back on the mound. That's where I'd be a little bit leery because of how great he has been, how he has found himself. And let's be honest, I mean, deGrom is telling you, and we talk about athletes knowing their body, deGrom has told you that he believes that there's nothing significant here. Am I going to ask him to dial it back? That would probably be option 3 for me if I were the Mets. I'd go the other 2 options. I'd give him, shut him down if you want to. I'd give him extra rest. Option 3 would be, let's change the way that you're approaching hitters right now because we're uncomfortable with you throwing 100 miles an hour.
Well, I don't even know if they've asked him to do that. This is all speculation. The rest is obviously the easiest thing. I think that, yes, deGrom knows his own body. Yes, he's telling you when he has to take himself out of the game. Yet it feels like he's talking himself back into these starts, and the Mets are willing, even after he feels an elbow issue, elbow anything, with a starting pitcher, and everyone's like, well, Jake's saying it's not a big deal and the MRI came back clean. Well, we've seen a lot of instances where a guy says it's not a big deal because he's a super competitor who feels like he would be letting his team down if he doesn't take the mound every fifth day. Love it, but at the same time, Moose, like, you can't just take his word for it because he's not
I get it.
just thinking about, he's not considering all the factors. He's considering the here and now. He wants to help this team get through this stretch, number one. Number two, he wants to make all of his starts. Wouldn't you? He's pitching to a 5.4 ERA. It's disgusting. I mean, what he's doing is blazing a trail that we may never see. He's off to the best start of pitcher in Mets history, and think about the long history of Mets pitchers in this city. Like, it's all there, and if somebody doesn't get their arms around this in the Mets organization and get deGrom on board with it and have a plan, then this has the potential. Obviously, I don't know the future, but this looks like it has the potential to go off the rails. And I can't just be naive about it because, it's little things now, or because deGrom says he feels great, or because the delivery looks free and easy. If it was so free and easy, he wouldn't be feeling the soreness in his shoulder. If it was so free and easy, he wouldn't be feeling the soreness in his elbow. Like, I'm sorry, it's not. It may look free and easy, but it could be having an impact. So, get your arms around it, and that's why I said my fear is that the Mets don't have a plan. They don't have a plan for how this velocity is impacting him, and they don't have a plan for how to manage his temperament, his competitiveness moving forward.
Well, they're
my
in
fear.
control. The Mets are in control. I mean, they can listen to the athlete. You don't have to react to the athlete. Jacob deGrom can tell you that from now to kingdom come that he's A-OK. The Mets have the control here of shutting him down and putting him in the IL and protecting the athlete from himself. So if I don't know what Sandy Alderson, Scott, I don't know what their plan is right now with Jacob deGrom. They obviously want to figure out if there was anything medically after the initial test last night, and the diagnosis was that there's nothing significant here. It's been too repetitive in nature when you have the elbow and then the shoulder and back-to-back starts. That obviously is concerning. And if you're a Met fan and you're concerned about that, you have every right to be concerned. I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't be concerned. I would just say that there are options here for the Mets. Let's see which one they decide to pick.